Welcome back to our Emmanual series where we'll be going through all 24 chapters of Luke every single day for the next 23 days now, right?
I know.
23 days counting down to Christmas. And if you haven't watched episode 1, highly encourage you to do so. Just go ahead and click to our channel. You'll see it. We're on number 2, so number 1 is right before this. So you can go ahead and watch that and come along this journey with us. But today we'll be in Luke 2, so if you haven't read that for yourself yet, go ahead and pause the video and come back to this conversation once you've read it.
It'll be linked in the description too.
So first and foremost, we get the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. And then after that, this chapter is pretty dense with some of the key moments that happened in Jesus' early life and upbringing. And not only do we get some of the key moments in his life, but we also get the ways that people reacted to these moments, or how people received Jesus finally coming as the Messiah. One of the things I want to focus on with regards to how people were receiving Jesus was one of the people we'll look at is Mary, his own mother. And so there are 2 instances, or really 3 instances, where it says that Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart. She's treasuring these moments in Jesus' early life. In verse 19 it says, "But Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart." And that's with regards to when the shepherds were visited by the angels, and the angels just like, yo, you gotta go see the Messiah. He was born, and you're gonna see him in a manger. And they're like, okay. So they go to Bethlehem, and they see Mary there, and they're just like gushing. They're just like, yo, you're not gonna believe what happened. Like, this angel just visited us, gave us a sign that the Messiah is here. And yeah, that's why we're here. So everybody that hears that is like, yo, what are they talking about? They're just wondering about these things. But it says here, it distinguishes Mary's reaction. It says, "But Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart." And if we move on to verse 33, this is happening after a sacrifice of purification is made for Jesus. So in Jewish custom, if you were the firstborn son of a woman, not just a son, but if you are the first child of a woman and you are a male, there has to be a sacrifice of purification, which would be like it, in order to dedicate you to the Lord. If you were the firstborn male, you had to be dedicated to the Lord. And so Mary and Joseph go to Jerusalem, and there's a priest named Simeon, and the Holy Spirit told him that he would not die until he sees God's Messiah. And so Mary and Joseph pull up. The Holy Spirit helps him recognize that Jesus, this little baby, is the Messiah, and he starts prophesying. He's like also gushing a lot like the shepherds. And it says here in verse 33, after Simeon's done with his gushing, his father and his mother, Jesus' adoptive father, I guess, his human father who took care of him and raised him, Joseph and Mary marveled at what was said about him. So they're accounting for these amazing things that are happening in Jesus' life. Like, they're just doing the basic things that you do when you have a firstborn kid, when you have a firstborn male. They're following all these rituals. They're trying their best to make sure he's being born in a good environment. All they could get was a manger. And there's all these marvelous things that are happening and accompanying just these moments in life, and they're treasuring these moments. The priests, the shepherds, later here we see a prophetess named Anna also starts gushing about the Jesus who she recognizes the Messiah. And later on, there's a time skip here from about 39 to 41, where it's 12 years later. Jesus is now 12 years old, old enough to talk and converse and all those things. And they, as you can read here, they left Jerusalem after celebrating Passover, and they realized, oh crap, we left our son, the Messiah, in Jerusalem. And so they book it back to Jerusalem, and they try to find him. And after 3 days, they finally find him, and he's at the temple. Big surprise. And so Mary's just like, yo, why'd you do this to us, man? We were so worried for you. And Jesus goes, why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? And it says here, you move on, they didn't understand the saying that he spoke to them, and Jesus went with them, came back to Nazareth, and was submissive to them. He was a good kid, and his mother treasured up all these things in her heart. And what makes this moment marvelous is this is a 12-year-old kid who we see here in, hey dog, who we see here in verse 46. They found their 12-year-old son in the temple, sitting among these well-learned and elder teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him at the temple were amazed at his understanding and his answers. There are all these incredible things happening as Jesus is growing up. And rather than being flooded by doubt or fear or anything like that, like Mary hasn't forgotten who she gave birth to. She hasn't forgotten who her son is. He's the Messiah. And she's treasuring all these moments in her heart. And so, what do you want to say? And after reading about all the ways that Mary and the shepherds, Joseph, Simeon, Anna, all the teachers at the temple, all of them were captivated and amazed by this child. There's something marvelous and miraculous about him. And even thousands of years later, I'm convicted to treasure these things in my heart as well. I wasn't there in the stable when Jesus was born. I wasn't there when he was circumcised. Thank goodness I wasn't. If you don't know what circumcision is, it's a ceremony. It's not the prettiest one, but look it up if you don't know what it is. I wasn't there when sacrifice was made for him in the temple and Simeon and Anna are prophesying. I wasn't there when he was conversing with all these well-learned elders and everybody was amazed at him. But I know that they happened through these accounts, and I have faith that they happened. And I don't just want to read this as a story. I want to be able to accept this as reality. These things happened. In episode 1, I talked briefly about how Christianity is the one faith where the divine entered into human history in a unique way, where it wasn't just doing things to humans or for humans or altering events in history. God injected himself into humanity by becoming a man. And I want to celebrate with Mary. I want to treasure these things with Mary. I don't just want to go to Christ or Christianity and think of it as a set of rules or a set of beliefs that I have to follow and whatnot. Like, I want to be captivated by the reality that Christ came down to earth, lived a human life. You know, they did all these things. I want to be as marveled as they were.
So one of the things that really stuck out to me was that Jesus was born in a manger, like in a barn. And I think about that sometimes because, like, talking to my friends and talking to other married women, a lot of us have these, like, aspirations and goals, and, like, a lot of people will say that, you know, they want to buy a house before they can have kids, or, you know, even on, like, a non-married perspective of this, like, oh, I don't want to, like, live in a basement studio apartment, or I don't want to, like, do this or do that. Like, I deserve more, I earn more, I worked for more. And it's funny because Jesus literally left his throne, like, the best thing that he could possibly have, being, like, at the right hand of the Father. He left that so that he could literally be born in a barn and then be, like, laid down to rest for the first time in a manger, which like is dirty. Like if you think about it, like animals were there. Like there's probably like I don't know how well they prepped it. Like it's not like a nice way to like start off your life. And he never complained. And I think that's important because when we talk about humility in the Bible, when we talk about humility in the Bible, oftentimes people think humility just looks like not looking at yourself as great, like not being like, I'm the best, I'm great, I'm the prettiest, or whatever. But it's actually bigger than that. It's like, it's actually bigger than that. It's not being, or not acting or feeling entitled to literally anything, right? Because it's not like Jesus was like, oh, well, I was a perfect man. I am entitled to not die on a cross. Like, I deserve that. But, like, he didn't get what he deserved. He got significantly worse than what he deserved in his lifetime on earth. And once again, he didn't complain. He, like, probably would happily do it again for humanity and because he was so full of love for his people. And I just think, like, in today's culture, we need to be a little more mindful of the ways that we may be taking advantage of or like taking for granted the little luxuries that we have and complaining about like this and that and comparing our lives and all that. And on top of that, I also think about that moment when Jesus was like, where else would I be? Of course I would be in my Father's house. Like, of course I would be studying with these teachers. Of course I would be asking them questions. Of course I would be in the presence of my Father, because like where else would I be? And it makes me think of in today's world, like I come into work on a Monday and people ask me what I did over the weekend. Rarely do I say I went to church, which is funny because every single weekend I go to church. And rarely do I say I spent Saturday to rest, which is what it's made for. Like the weekend is made for us Christians to rest in his presence and to study who he is and to learn more about him and to be in fellowship with others who also believe in him. So I just think it's funny what our priorities are. So I just want to challenge you all to think more about the ways that you're spending your time outside of work and your normal day-to-day and doing your laundry, doing the chores, doing whatever you got to do. Because even Mary had to do that. Like, everyone had to do that. Like, including the people in the Bible. They had to wash the dishes. They had to do the laundry. Like, this is an ever-existing thing that we need to, like, maintain our lives. But outside of all that, how much time do you spend in the presence of God and, like, learning about him? And how much do you reveal to people about that, too, when they ask? Because it's a perfect opportunity when people ask you what you spent your weekend on to say, of course, I was in my Father's house. I mean, don't say it like that. But, you know, where else would I be? What else would I be doing? And what else is better? Like, ask yourself that question, too. Like, what else is actually better and worth your time than to spend it with God?
Yeah, I like that. Like you said, probably shouldn't say it that way. It comes across as, I don't know, high and mighty, but we should have that same attitude with how we conduct ourselves and, like, how we want to come across to other people. Like, you know, of course I brush my teeth every morning. Of course I try to take care of myself. You know, of course I try to show up early for work. We should have that same attitude when we think about our devotion to God and who we prioritize to spend time with and who to focus on. It should be that relationship we have with God, where, you know, it's like, of course, I was with fellow church members, fellowshipping with them. Of course, I was giving to the needy just as Jesus did so that I could please God.
Okay, sorry, just making sure. Of course I was giving to the needy.
You know, of course I was giving to the needy to love them as God has loved us. Of course, I was living my life unto God. But knowing that everything we do is seen by Him and we are called to be His children. So yeah, that's an awesome takeaway.
Yeah, I think also, like, last point is, like, if my life were documented and the way that Mary's was or other people in the Bible, I mean, like, that random woman that went to church that day, like, that was in the temple, and she was in the temple every single day, right? Or Simeon, who was just, like, waiting. If my life were documented, how much of it would be about God? I would hope it's more than what it currently is, like, you know, and that's the sad part, that there's, like, clearly change that needs to happen in my own life too, where, like, if someone were to write out my testimony as if it were in the Bible, would I actually be as hopeful as these people, or happy as these people, or excited? Would I marvel at, like, the things that I should be? Or am I just, like, being busy and passing by all of these moments and, like, not thinking about it because I don't have time, or I'm busy doing other things, or I'd rather be doing other things? So I think it's also, like, living in the present, and, like, because this is a story that's documented. It may not be in the Bible, it may not be in the books anywhere, but God's watching the whole time, you know? And it's, like, every one of us lives a life that is meant to glorify God. And it's meant to, at the end of the day, be about Him, right? Not about us. And I don't know that I can say that every single day I do that. So I guess let's just challenge ourselves to go into the rest of this week with that in mind, and, you know, see what that perspective can bring us in our lives, and how much more peace we'll have if we're focused less on ourselves.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sticking with us through episode 2. We're going to continue in worship. Again, all these songs we sing have to do with the chapter. So sing along with us, worship along with us, or just listen to the lyrics and see how it resonates with you. But until next time, which is literally tomorrow. Yeah, see you tomorrow.
See ya.